ni kwamba kumekuwa na watu wakijiuliza itakuwaje kama tunafaa kuwa na maadhimisho ya wale waliotuaga, na tunasema jambo hili kwa simanzi, tufanye kwa njia ambayo pia tunaheshimu wale watu. Huwezi ukasema kwamba unaadhimisha wale ambao walituacha ilhali unafanya wengine waweze kuadhiriwa. Haiko haki kupiganisha watu kwa kisingizio kwamba unafanya maadhimisho. Na serikali kupitia jopo kazi lake imeweza kutoa mwongozo wa wale ambao wameadhirika kutokana na majanga kama haya, na zaidi ya watu karibu 3,000 wameweza kujisajili kupitia kwenye ile tume, kupitia kwenye tume ya haki za kibinadamu KNCHR, na 1,500 wameweza kuthibitishwa karibu kwamba wao kile ambacho wanachokidai ni cha haki, na serikali imetoa mwongozo wa vile ambavyo watalipwa fidia. Kama ni mauaji, milioni hizi; kama ni kupigwa, kama ni ubakaji, yote iko hapa. Na tuna shilingi bilioni 2 ambazo Mheshimiwa Rais alitangaza wiki iliyopita, na hivi karibuni wataanza kupokea zile pesa. Hiyo ni kumaanisha nini? Tusemi kwamba hakuna uwajibikaji, lakini angalau tunafanya mambo ya maridhiano, tuwe na uwiano, ndiposa tuwasaidie wenzetu ambao wametuacha ama wameweza kuadhirika. Hivyo ndio njia ambayo tunafaa kuifanya, sio kupeleka watu kwa barabara na kuzuia wale wengine, kwa sababu pale haki yako inaishia ndio yangu inaanzia. Huwezi kuwa kwamba unasema haki yangu ni muhimu kuliko ya kwako na kadhalika. La hasha, haki ya kila mtu ni ya muhimu zaidi. Kwa hiyo hilo jambo ni muhimu kusema vile, na tunataka kusema kama serikali, tena kama mimi msemaji mkuu wa serikali, kwamba tuna kashifu na tunalaani vitendo vya uhuni, vitendo vya vurumai na watu kwenda makanisani na kwingineko kuleta vurugu. Hilo sio jambo ambalo linafaa, na tunaona tunapoendelea kufika katika mwaka wa 2027 hili jambo linaendelea sana. Jambo lingine ambalo pia tungependa kuelezea zaidi, kuna watu wamekuwa wakisema kwamba eti wakati wao wenyewe watachaguliwa, hizi nyumba ambazo ni za bei nafuu watakuja kunyang'anywa. Hilo sio jambo la ukweli. Sheria iko sawa. Kipengele cha 40 cha katiba kimeelezea kabisa kwamba ukishanunua mali yako, right to property kwa Kiingereza, uko na haki ya umiliki ya ardhi hali yako. Umefanya makataa, umekwenda, hakuna mtu atakuja kukutoa pale, una stakabadhi yako. Hakuna mtu yoyote anaweza kutoa dhihari ya kwenda kusema kwamba unyang'anywe mali yako, kwa sababu sheria iko hapa, kipengele cha 40, na ukisoma pia na kipengele cha 63 cha katiba. Kwa hivyo umiliki huu umeweza kuwekwa katika sheria, na hakuna mtu yoyote ambaye anaweza kukutoa. Kipengele cha 43 cha katiba pia kinakupatia haki ya umiliki wa ardhi. Na pia wakati tulikuwa bungeni, mimi mwenyewe nilikuwa bungeni, tulipitisha sheria ya kuhakikisha kama kuna nyumba kama hii unaweza kumiliki kipande kimoja cha ile nyumba, inaitwa Sectional Properties Act. Wakati wa COVID tulipitisha, pengine wengine walisahau. Kwa hiyo mtu asije kukuambia kwamba ati utanyang'anywa haki yako ya kimsingi ya kikatiba. Jambo lingine ambalo pia tungependa kuelezea kama serikali na kusisitizia, kuna watu wamekuwa akisema kwamba eti tunapunguza buga la wanyama la Nairobi National Park. La hasha. Ile orphanage ambayo iko pale ni ndogo. Sasa inasongeshwa iongezewe ekari ya ardhi, ekari 76, na itasongeshwa kilomita 1.5 ili iwe karibu na ile Bomas International Convention Center, ukumbi wa kimataifa wa Bomas wa mikutano, ili mtu anaweza kupitia kwenye daraja kwenda kuona wanyamapori wakati wamekuja kwenye mikutano hii. Na utakuta kwamba tumeangalia kutakuwa hata na hospitali ya wanyama. Unasikia jambo kama hilo? Kutakuwa na hospitali ya wanyama katika hiyo orphanage mpya, na kutakuwa na nafasi za watu ambao wataajiriwa zaidi ya 500 kutokana na mradi huu. Kwa hivyo wale ambao wanakimbia sijui wana mazingira wakisema na kadhalika, hatupunguzi mbuga la wanyama la Nairobi. Hilo ni jambo ambalo tunaweza kusema kabisa kama vile ambavyo tumeweza kufanya. Na vivyo hivyo ndivyo pia tunasema tena, tunasisitizia uwanja wa ndege wa JKIA umezeeka. Ulianzishwa mwaka 1957 ndugu zangu. Mwaka 78 unaweza kusheheni watu 8,000,000. Sasa umepita. Tunataka kujenga uwanja mpya ambao utaweza kusheheni zaidi ya wasafiri 22,000,000. Jameni, ukitembea Afrika kote kote, tulikuwa tuko mbele, sasa tunawachwa nyuma. Ingia pale Ethiopia uone uwanja wao wa ndege, na sasa hivi wanatengeneza jiji, airport city, na sisi bado huku tunapigana na kuzorotana na kusema sijui hatutaki. La hasha, tuache maneno kama haya. Kama Kenya itaendelea kuwa inaongoza katika usafirishaji na uchumi wetu, lazima tuwe na uwanja wa kisasa. Wengine wanaja kusema sijui kandarasi. Hili ni jambo ambalo lazima tulifanye, kwa sababu utakumbuka kwamba mradi huu umekuwa ukisongeshwa tangu awamu ya 3 ya Mheshimiwa Rais Kibaki. Lakini katika awamu hii, uongozi wa 5, awamu ya 5, utawala wa 5 ukipenda, lazima tuhakikishe kwamba tunasongesha Kenya, kwa sababu hiyo ndio ndoto yetu na azimio yetu ya kuwa nchi ambayo iliendelea zaidi kama Singapore. Na vivyo hivyo tutaendelea kupigana na ufisadi, na ndiposa tumekuwa na kitengo kikubwa cha kupigana na ufisadi hapa Nairobi, ambayo itakuwa ikifanya utafiti kwa mambo ya kupigana na ufisadi na kuhakikisha kwamba tunafanya yale ambayo yanafaa zaidi, kwa sababu hii taasisi imekuja baada ya miaka 4 ya kuhakikisha kwamba tunaongezea juhudi za kiutafiti na ujuzi na ushirikiano wa mataifa mbalimbali ya Afrika kupigana na ufisadi. Kwa hivyo tuko kipaumbele kuhakikisha mambo haya yote yametendeka, na yataendelea kuwa vivyo hivyo kwa sababu ya vile ambavyo tunafaa kusonga mbele kama Wakenya. Kenya itainuka, Kenya itasimama, Kenya itanawiri kwa umoja na uzalendo. Mimi ni Mkenya mzalendo. Je, wewe? Mimi ni Mkenya mzalendo daima. The government wishes to give its most sincere condolences and our sympathies to the traders in Gikomba following the tragic fire incident that happened. And really, we stand with them in solidarity. Already, we are taking measures using the National Disaster Operations Center and other government agencies. We'll continue to collaborate with the county government of Nairobi and to also ensure that we get to know the basis upon which these fires are persistent. We call upon the people not to really, speculate about the basis or the cause of this fire until investigations are done. We sympathize with those people who's lost their livelihoods, because today morning they don't know where to go, having invested to eke out a living for their families. So once again, our most sincere sympathies and condolences to everyone who is affected in one way or another by the Gikomba fire incident. In the same manner, the government reaffirms that the right to assemble, demonstrate, picket, and present petitions is a fundamental democratic freedom guaranteed under Article 37 of the Constitution, which states, every person has the right, peaceably and unarmed, to assemble, to demonstrate, to picket and to present petitions to public authorities. While protests are an essential aspect of democracy, some recent demonstrations have been marred by violence, loss of life and property, damage to a very great extent. This is criminal under our criminal law. And it is often due to criminal elements infiltrating peaceful gatherings. Such violence harms citizens, families, and businesses, thereby weakening our democracy. Police brutality is unacceptable. And let me insist, police brutality is unacceptable. However, attacking police officers is equally intolerable. Rights come with limitations. Article 24 of the Constitution guarantees every person the right to freedom and security of the person, including protection from any form of violence from public or private sources. The Constitution further limits those rights. Rights can be limited by law. And that is why Article 24, read together with Section 82 of the Penal Code, makes it an offense for any person to unlawfully assault, resist, oppose, threaten, or use violence against anyone lawfully charged with a public duty while executing that duty. And where 2 or 3 people are already assembling peacefully, but they start becoming violent, then the police have the right to declare that a riot and to order those people to leave. Failure to which he can take action and, he will not be held liable. That is the delicate balance between freedom of assembly, freedom of movement, and also the right to, to peaceful coexistence and everyone also move. Because you cannot say that because you are rioting, others should not do their work. These provisions empower the police to maintain law and order. And the question that we want to ask to all of us here as a nation, why commemorate lives lost by endangering others, destroying property, and seeking political gain? Why use solemn occasions to incite unrest and division while upholding the right to peaceful protest? The government urges that we should have a clear distinction between peaceful demonstrations and violent actors, ensuring constitutional rights are respected and not exploited for political gain. Additionally, the government clarifies that 25th of June is not a public holiday and will remain a working day. Citizens are urged to move forward and work that day constructively to build our economy, leaving unrest behind and uniting in fostering peace and national cohesion. Recent protests have resulted in losses of life and property, and we stand in solidarity with those whose lives were lost. The estimate by KRA was that we lost 6 billion shillings. The estimate by KRA was that we lost 6 billion shillings. And it's even more. That's just a very conservative estimate. Therefore, call for further protests risk driving the country into further economic crisis, severely harming the very youth that those who are calling them purport to represent. The government unequivocally condemns such actions, and politicians are hereby warned to desist from exploiting demonstrations to inflame passions by making very wild allegations and declarations for political gains, and we've seen that already. All citizens must uphold peace, respect the rule of law, and prioritize the safety and security of all Kenyans. In this regard, the government reaffirms its commitment to justice and social protection through a compensation framework for human rights violation victims, including those affected by protests from the 2017 to 2026. Compensation for protests will begin soon, as will be directed by the head of state, His Excellency President William Ruto, the head of state and head of government. This demonstrates a timely, fair, and transparent response to past hardships. This program is called Uwiano. It's about restorative justice, not retribution. And that is the true essence of Ubuntu. Our African legal and judicial system is restorative. It's not retributive, because we are a community. We are not an atomic society. That is something that we need to appreciate. It does not take away culpability or liability. Guided by the Presidential Proclamation number 1 of 2026 and the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights Reparation Guidelines, and backed by Kenya shillings 2 billion parliamentary allocation, the government is committed to upholding citizens' dignity and rights. So far, 1,815 claims have been received by the KNCHR and 1,022 by IPOA and others by the Interior Ministry, with 1,101 victims verified and approved for compensation. In fact, this number has since gone up to about 1,500. All victims' information is handled with the utmost confidentiality under the Data Protection Act 2019, with public disclosures made only with explicit consent, demonstrating the government's respect for privacy and dignity. The government affirms that this voluntary ex gratia program is a gesture for reconciliation and restoration and does not imply legal liability or a vitiating factor for that matter. It does not even affect ongoing investigations or prosecution of those responsible for human rights violations. Victims are encouraged to submit claims orally or in writing via email info@victimscompensation.go.ke. Let me repeat. You can do it in an oral manner or in writing via email info@victimscompensation, one word, .go.ke. info@victimscompensation.go.ke, or through partner agencies such as KNCHR and IPOA. The physical offices for in-person claims will also be announced by tomorrow. We have very clear guidelines, and they also frequently ask questions about how to go about it, which we shall be also sharing with you, members of the fourth estate. So with that, in that regard, we have a very clear framework. How much one is supposed to be paid if someone lost their lives, if there is incidences of gross injury, rape, and all of that. It is already very well provided for. So in this regard, therefore, even as we talk about commemorations, let us do it peacefully. Let us not do it in a manner that we are going to create more casualties when there is actually citizens being in conflict with this, members of the security forces. And in this regard, the government unequivocally condemns the recent incidents of political intolerance, violence, and goonism occurring in various parts of the country. These unlawful acts not only compromise public order, but also threaten national unity and violate the constitutional rights of citizens to peacefully associate, assemble, and engage in political processes. In response, the government is intensifying efforts to curb such criminality by deploying enhanced security measures, strengthening intelligence operations, and enforcing stricter penalties against those involved in political violence. The government reiterates that no individual, regardless of social status, political affiliation, or public office, is above the law. Perpetration of violence, sponsors of criminal gangs, and those inciting unrest will face swift, decisive, and uncompromising legal action under the full weight of the law. A firm warning is issued to the public against any participation in political violence and goonism. Political competition must be conducted within the bounds of the law. This mutual respect and tolerance for diverse opinion is paramount. The government remains resolute in its commitment to safeguard public safety, uphold rule of law and order, and ensure that all citizens can exercise their constitutional rights free from fear and intimidation. Further, on the issue of affordable housing, the government has observed recent public claims discouraging Kenyans from purchasing homes under the Affordable Housing Program, AHP, with unfounded claims that investments may be forfeited following a change in government. Nothing can be further from the truth. We want to call out those leaders who are trying to use this to win their political base and support. They are outright liars and naysayers, people who are unpatriotic, who are only doing that for their own selfish gains. These assertions are misleading and must be corrected as follows. Number one, Kenya is a constitutional democracy that guarantees property rights under Article 40. Homes lawfully purchased through the Affordable Housing Program are the permanent property of the owners and remain secure despite any change in government. So the ownership has nothing to do with change of government. While the Affordable Housing Levy is a financing tool, ownership of these homes is protected by law and cannot be revoked by any government. Misinformation suggesting otherwise only causes unnecessary worry amongst rightful home owners. The Affordable Housing Program is governed by the Affordable Housing Act 2024, which implements the constitutional right to adequate housing under Article 43, 1B. Purchases are formalized through the Bomayangu platform, with beneficiaries receiving registered sectional titles under the Sectional Properties Act 2020. So you can actually own a section of a building. That is new. It has not been happening, but now it is actually in law. So you actually have your own title of a building, of a section of a building. And these titles are legally enforceable, transferable, and inheritable, providing secure ownership protected by the law. And this is a practice in many developed economies. And that protection is not dependent on the goodwill of any public official. Property rights apply equally to all Kenyans, and for many, an affordable housing unit is their first asset, representing security and legacy. Undermining these rights contradicts the constitutional guarantee of equality under Article 27 and dignity under Article 28. The government further encourages Kenyans to participate confidently in the Affordable Housing Program, and attempts to discourage participation should be noted as just mere political motivations and grandstanding, seeking to exploit the initiatives ahead of the 2027 general elections. On the Nairobi National Park, the government wants to make it clear and to state as follows. The proposed hiving off of the part of the Nairobi National Park and the relocation of the Nairobi Animal Orphanage, NAO, or now if you like it, within the park, the government affirms that all actions will strictly adhere to established legal procedures and frameworks to ensure proper governance and environmental protection, with no shortcuts or compromises in preserving this national heritage. This project, approved by the National Environmental Management Authority, NEMA, in December of 2025, involves the development of a modern facility and a visitor infrastructure on 76 acres of open grassland within the park's boundaries, with no reduction in the park's overall area. The existing orphanage will be relocated 1.5 kilometers away to a new site opposite the Bomas International Convention Center, which is at advanced stage of completion. This new facility will feature upgraded animal enclosures, a wildlife hospital, first ever by government for various species, reflecting the government's commitment to conservation and animal welfare. The project includes a parking facility to accommodate up to 1,300 vehicles, integrated with the Bomas of Kenya, and a pedestrian overpass to improve visitor access. And by the way, it's good to say we are still retaining a section for our traditional dances. We are not doing away with that. There's a whole section there for that, because we also need to have that cultural experience. So you have the convention center, you have the cultural dance, and you have the animals, some of the best products that you have for the country. Beyond conservation, this initiative, and of course the Talanta Stadium also, big one. Beyond this conservation, this initiative is expected to create over 500 direct jobs, boost tourism, and enhance overall conservation outcomes. The government reiterates that all necessary environmental approvals and safeguards have been duly obtained, including an 85% public participation approval rating and the issuance of a NEMA license under the Environmental Management and Coordination Act. Claims suggesting that widespread destruction of Nairobi National Park are inaccurate and therefore misleading. And some of these people are just doing that to hoodwink donors so that they can fund their initiatives. On the JKIA modernization procurement process, as earlier stated, our infrastructure there is old. You have seen leaking roofs. We just have makeshifts just at the end of a runway. We are going to get a new runway. The capacity has actually burst. It can only accommodate about 7.8 million. The airport was built in 1957 and upgraded in 1978. We need to do more if we are to maintain our competitive edge as a transport hub for this country. The government strongly rejects misleading media reports that falsely associate companies not involved in the modernization procurement of Jomo Kenyatta International Airport and urges the public to rely solely on verified official communication, recognizing that much of JKIA's infrastructure is outdated and operating beyond capacity. The government commissioned a comprehensive master plan and feasibility study developed by a leading global engineering firm to establish a clear, phased strategy for the airport's long-term expansion. The current procurement process for the design and build contractor has been conducted transparently and in full compliance with the Public Procurement and Assets Disposal Act through an open international competitive bidding process. So all of those things that we are hearing, rumors in the social media, they need to come to rest. We need to build a new airport. In fact, we are late because the third administration started this process, and every time there has been opposition, and that I think we just must do it. Corruption remains a major barrier in Africa's economic transformation, good governance, and sustainable development. The government reaffirms its unwavering commitment to transparency, accountability, and the eradication of corruption across all sectors. This growing complexity of modern corruption, including money laundering, cybercrime, trafficking, fraud, and illicit financial flows crossing borders, demands innovative and coordinated responses. In this regard, the government proudly announces the launch of the Africa Anti-Corruption Studies and Research Center in Nairobi, established under the auspices of the Association of African Anti-Corruption Authorities, AAACA. This center marks a pivotal step in positioning Kenya as a continental leader in the fight against corruption. Remember very well also we have an African Parliamentarians Network Against Corruption. It was started here in Kenya. The office is registered here, and I was privileged to serve as the founding Secretary General of that, that caucus. And other countries have since, replicated that model. Together with this research center and such other institutions, Kenya will serve as a hub for cutting-edge research, policy development, capacity building, and the delivery of evidence-based solutions to emerging corruption challenges. The establishment of this center marks the culmination of a 4-year effort to enhance research, knowledge sharing, and cooperation amongst African anti-corruption agencies, EACC and the others. This is actually building on the progress of many, many other initiatives, and the government remains steadfast in its commitment to fighting corruption through stronger institutions, digital innovation, transparency, and decisive actions to uphold the rule of law. Kenya itainuka, Kenya itasimama, Kenya itanawiri kwa umoja na uzalendo. Mimi ni Mkenya mzalendo. Je, wewe? Mimi ni Mkenya mzalendo daima. Asanteni sana. Maswali kama kuna yote.
Do you have anyone who wants to ask a question? Please say your name, the media house you work for, and go direct to your question.
Good morning, sir. My name is Kevin Chirot from Daily Nation. I have 2 questions.
Cheruiyot, eh?
Yes, sir.
Yes, Cheruiyot.
One is to the June 25th commemoration. What are some of the plans maybe that the government has put in place to protect businesses for Kenyans and Nairobi specifically? And on the issue of compensation, why is it that the Commission has not disclosed the names of beneficiaries? And the last one, with June 30th approaching, we understand what South Africans have been saying regarding the foreigners in South Africa. Maybe what's the state of Kenyans who are in South Africa? Thank you.
Yes, next.
Thank you. Good morning, sir. My name is Augusto Morel from the Spanish news agency EFE. And my question is, I would like to know if the construction of the Ebola quarantine center for US citizens at Laikipia Airways has been halted or it is underway, and if so, when it's expected to finish. Also, my second question regarding the protest for the 25th, wish to know if the security operations would use lethal force in case of need. Thank you.
Next.
Thank you.
Uliza ujibiwe.
Good morning. My name is Sami Adika from Hope Media.
Yes, Adika.
My question is about Gikomba market. Are there plans to compensate the traders? Number two, what are the long-term plans to avert such cases? Because same to toy market, we've experienced such cases. Apart from the redevelopment of Gikomba market, of which, and still on President William Ruto's promise, will it be completed in the next 6 months?
Any other question?
So we take those?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. To begin with, Kevin Echoroyot from the Daily Nation. And thank you, Kevin. You've always been covering our pressures very well for the last almost 3 years since I've been government spokes. Yes, we have adequate measures that we've taken in place to ensure security of our people. And we want to assure Kenyans that they are well taken care of and they should not fear coming out that day to work and to go about their business. This is the assurance that we are giving to you as your government. So that one, we put in place very good measures in that regard. Of course, we cannot disclose that this is a security issue, but rest assured that all is well. Number two, the names of the people to be compensated, the list keeps on growing based on verification. But as I said earlier on, you will see action very soon being taken to compensate them by none other than the president. He will be making further, declaration as the head of state and head of government. So let's wait for that. But as I said earlier, about 1,500 or so have been verified, and the numbers keep on going. So if you have any claim, please approach KNCHR, approach IPOA, approach the Ministry of Interior, the disaster secretariat led by the very able Professor Makau Mutua. I've had an extensive conversation with him, and under this Uwiano initiative, please do so. It's about restoration, reparation. It's not to evade liability. Let's take note of that. Now, on the issue of Ebola, we will continue as a country to host as many Kenyans, returning home, but also we are known for hosting other people from other countries. We have actually the biggest refugee camp in the world, I think, or in this part of Africa. And we are also very good at peacekeeping missions. Kenya and Congo are intertwined in a very big way. We have banks there like Equity, KCB, many Kenyans who are doing work there. Our peacekeeping missions are there. So this issue has been blown out of proportion. This thing has been brought out of proportion. We have 23 facilities that we are working with the American government. They have given us a support of over 200 billion shillings to actually not just support the issue of Ebola, but other diseases. So really, let us not try to make it look big. So far, people have been in quarantine. I don't think you've heard of any case. So we continue to collaborate with Americans. They were allies. They stood with us even during COVID and other HIV and AIDS. We stand with them, just like they've also stood with us. And that one, we assure fellow Kenyans that there is no way the Kenyan government can compromise on their health status. And you've seen nothing like that has happened so far. So we continue to build facilities, the 23 of them, to make sure that it's not just one that you can focus on. There are many others that we continue to do. And the question that we'd ask, why are you not questioning the other facilities that we are working together with other friendly governments to build to support our health resilience? Why zero down on one, yet the others also help Kenyans? And when these facilities are made, they will help all of us in case of anything. So going forward. And it's also not good to assert that only Americans, or other people from other countries, may be affected by a certain disease. Diseases are global, and we must all, as human beings, be able to protect ourselves, from them, because we are all humans. Then, when it comes to the issue of the so-called commemorative day on 25th, first and foremost, it's to reiterate it's a working day. It's not a holiday. There's no declaration of a holiday. So all Kenyans, starting with civil servants, are expected to be at their desks, at their duty, all hands on deck, building our economy. The police, as per Article 35, are supposed to provide security when people are protesting in a peaceable manner. But protests should not interfere with other people's freedom of movement. And if they become rioters as per Section 82, the police have the legal backing to take action without any consequence. So that is very clear. So there's no use of lethal force because there's no need, if at all. But when, of course, people become rioters, the police have got responsibility to maintain law and order. Then the issue of Gikomba and compensation, please, at this point in time, let's wait for the investigations to go on. Any further, announcement will be made in due course on what the government needs to take actions on, depending on what is agreed upon. Because in government we must consult and come up with a joint, statement on any issue, and we'll come back to you on that. I think that is it. You had another question, Adika. What was your second question? Yeah, on the issue of disaster. Please, it's good to note that we now have a new disaster law, which is very, 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 very important, because that law has been lagging in Parliament, I think, for 16 years or so. Because when I was in the National Assembly, we had it. I was part of that caucus with the likes of Sakaja and Mutula Kilonzo and Red Cross. We pushed it when we were in the Senate, still did not succeed with the UNISDR. And now it's now part of our laws. It is going to ensure that disaster professionals are also recruited in government, and that we don't just have knee-jerk reactions, that we actually make disaster part and parcel of our society. And that applies to markets also, because those incidences have been very persistent. So we need to look at that even when we are doing our project design, and also in schools, so that people are able to follow the right kind of guidelines. It is a responsibility of all of us to ensure that that happens. If you look at this media center here, you can see in case of fire, there's at least some cylinders here that would help us, and there's even an exit door, at the back there. That's the kind of situation we want to have, and much more possibly. That's maybe the bare minimum to ensure in case of any disaster, at least there are some mitigating factors. Let's not just go by Kiswahili, adage, ajali haina kinga. Hiyo walikuwa wahenga wa kitambo. Sasa hivi jamani, tujaribu kuweka kinga kidogo, ndio angalau tuweze kujisitiri kutokana na madhila na majanga ya hizo ajali. Any other question? Asanteni sana, Mungu awabariki.